do you think?
Seductive.
That's nice.
It's really good.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sue Austen, and I am a lecturer and module leader at the London Film School. I'm actually not in London at the moment myself, since we're all working at home. I'm in sunny Ramsgate in Kent. Since everyone else is going to tell you where they are, I thought I'd mention where I am too. So the London Film School is really delighted to be sponsoring this year's at least one award in this year's Women Over 50 Film Festival. We're sponsoring the Student Prize, and I'd also just like to mention that over the number of years, many of our students have been represented in the festival, and this year one of our students' films, which is called Empty Spaces and was filmed in Guatemala, is by Clara Stephanie Schreiber-Lorenzi, is part of the festival. So that's very exciting. As I'm sure you all already know, the Women Over 50 Film Festival is the UK's only international film festival which celebrates the work of women over 50, both in front of and behind the camera, which makes it extremely important. Today's session is around a program of films which explores themes of work in a pre-COVID and in COVID times. And we are very proud to be presenting stories of politics, power, love, friendship, abuse, competition, and juggling. So I'd like to welcome the audience who are joining us here for this event. And I'd now like to ask each of the individual filmmakers if they could kindly say hello and introduce themselves to you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Celia. I'm director and co-producer of Magicland, and I'm in London.
Hello, I'm Marta Renzi. I'm the director of Dancing is an Old Friend, and I'm here from Nyack, New York.
Hi, I'm Nia Hill. I'm writer, co-producer, and cast member of Grimsby, and I'm calling in from London, UK.
Hi, I'm Camilla Laxton. I'm also calling in from London, UK. I am part of Grimsby as co-producer, and I also play a supporting role.
Hi, I'm Gloria Civantos. I made the animation The Competition, and I'm glad you could join us.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Buck. I am the director and one of the executive producers of Quiet on Set, and I am calling in from Athens, Ohio, USA.
Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie Ray Brickman. I'm the editor and executive producer of Quiet on Set. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm calling in from London, UK.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Abod, Long Beach, California. I'm the director, writer, producer, co-editor, whatever, of The Passionate Pursuits of Angela Bowen. I'm delighted to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Alison. I wrote and executive produced Pastry, and I'm calling in from Pembrokeshire, Wales in the UK.
Hi everyone, I'm Nuala O'Sullivan. I'm the director of the Women Over 50 Film Festival, and I'm here today as the producer of this Q&A, so you won't be hearing any more from me now.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm social media assistant for WOFFF this year, and I'm calling in from London, UK. I also will only be here to observe.
Okay, so thank you very much for all introducing yourselves. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to ask a question, and then we're going to go round the room, as it were, the Zoom, not the room. And I'm going to invite you all to answer this question. And is a very simple question, a very straightforward question, which is why did you choose to make this particular film and why make it now? Thank you.
So I'll talk about Magicland on behalf of myself and Emily, who can't make it today. I think, to be honest, we just fell in love with Jenny kind of head over heels and just thought she was so amazing when we met her. And she's also at a very interesting point in her career where she's kind of maybe in the later half of her career, but still has this incredible youthful energy. So she's kind of really wise, but also so playful and has like a childlike energy to her. And when we found out about her journey into the magic circle and how late that had come in her career, it was just a really interesting look at how you can be that far down the road and still like reinventing yourself and breaking down barriers and doing new and fresh, exciting things, even at that point.
This is Dancing is an Old Friend, and actually the reason I made it now is that I was invited to by the two performers who also, I guess you'd say, commissioned and created all the material. They decided to do it at this particular moment because they were feeling trapped in lockdown. It was end of April when we connected. They're two young women, not over 50, well under, who had danced with me off and on since they were at the local dance studio here, first as teenagers and then as young adults in various short films of mine. And they thought to themselves, we miss each other and we want to be making something. So let's call Marta and see if she'll make something with us. So they sent me material via WhatsApp, and I began editing almost right away and encouraging them to send more. And with Leia in particular, who was less used to even sort of TikTok film, giving direction remotely. Tough, but fun.
When we were presented the script from Nia Hill called Grimsby Girl, it was in a setting called the Actors Screen Collective, where we work to develop, as a group of actors, to help filmmakers make their films. And we felt that Grimsby Girl was very topical. Sacha Baron Cohen had just released his film Grimsby, which was not particularly it wasn't describing Grimsby as a particularly nice place to be. Nia's film script came in as quite refreshing. It's also about bullying in the workplace, and it felt very topical. The Me Too movement came in as we were in post-production, I believe, so that it was, the timing felt, we felt that we were in line with the timing of making the film.
It was before the pandemic when I began, and one was that I was taking my daughter to multiple horse riding classes and competitions, and as I was dealing with the stress of watching my child on a huge horse jumping at incredible speed, and I wanted to record the intense mental and physical effort of entering a competition. I also want to address the image of women facing conflict or struggle, and the centaur image, which is usually represented as a battle-ready male, rarely is depicted as a female centauress. And if it is, it's extremely sexualized. But everyone needs to be battle-ready, both physically and mentally. We need to be strong for whatever comes our way. And the final point was that the symbolic truth that to win, your team must act as one.
In early 2016, a theater in Chicago was getting really lovely and wonderful reviews about how realistic the performances were. And it came to be that a young woman an actor was being choked on stage every night. And it was from that event that an organization started in Chicago called Not in Our House. So that was 2016. So then in 2017, the broader Me Too movement came about, and in terms of why making this film now, it's like, what, for me, I always want to ask questions. So what had actors endured? What had we as an industry allowed to happen to artists in order for them to make their work? More specifically, like, I've made intimate scenes or created and directed intimate scenes in almost every project I've ever directed. Like, what had I done? What had I participated in? Had I participated in anyone's discomfort? What procedures had I put in place for actors to feel both safe and brave? So I felt like this was really the time and the opportunity to explore this topic, and to was lucky enough to find, you know, actors that were willing to take the leap and do this scene. And we had an intimacy choreographer on set, and I have since been trained in intimacy choreography, at least beginning to be. And I just think we as an industry have to figure out, like, what are we doing? What compromises are we making people make? And how are we going to make this work so that people feel cared for and safe? So that's the why did we make this now, Quiet on Set.
The film that you're going to watch, The Passionate Pursuits of Angela Bowen, I made it because Angela Bowen, who's Dr. Angela Bowen, she's in the painting I did behind there. At the time, Angela and I had been together for 20 years, and I had just finished a film about Audre Lorde. And as a white woman who was learning about racism, being part of an interracial family, I felt as though it was very important to tell stories. Audre Lorde always said, "You will be in rooms I will never be in." And I asked Angela if she'd be willing to let me tell her stories, because I had heard them for so long. She's a remarkable woman. And it took her 1.5 years to say yes. It was important for her to know why I was making the film. And that's how the film begins, with that answer, actually. The timing of it now is more poignant than even it was in 2000, to be honest with you. She was part of the dawning of the Black lesbian feminist movement of the second wave. She was a colleague of Audre Lorde's, but she began that journey when she was in her 50s, after having a 40-year career as a dancer and as a teacher of young children. Her whole life was one of trying to explore all the possibilities of her mind and her body, and she shared everything, trying to help and shape children and young adults in college, and activists to be all that they could be. She left an indelible mark on every person that she touched, including me, and I miss her sorely. Yeah.
I wrote Pastry a long time ago in my youth, because I was interested in different ways of seduction, but also in body image, especially for women. So it's an old script, but the way it came about being shot was that my friend Eduardo, the director, was looking for another short film, and he had remembered reading this some years ago. So it's got an old-fashioned feel to it, partly because it was written a long time ago, but it's still a timeless story.
So thank you all very much for answering that question so eloquently and in so honestly. And I would now like to ask you the second question. So this particular program, which has been curated, is programs which are called work. And so thinking about your own work as a filmmaker, can you tell us briefly what were the highs and lows for you on working on this particular film? Thank you.
I think probably for a lot of people on this Zoom chat, it's probably the same thing of kind of money and time. So we had one day to shoot Magicland. So we were packing in a lot there. And for people who maybe will watch the film, that giant ball is a real giant balloon. It's not kind of CGI. So there was also the added stress of, will it pop? Will we need another one? We don't have money for another one. Let's definitely get that. So I think the kind of challenges, as opposed to maybe a low, was just getting everything we wanted to do done in that one day. I think the highs were probably preparing for it. We spent a lot of time with Jenny and her granddaughter, and hanging out in kind of rehearsal rooms with the movement director, with those two playing around, and us all kind of falling on the floor with laughter, and then kind of showing us tricks and dance moves, or meeting Jenny in a cafe to run through some stuff, and she'd just start doing some magic, and everyone's kind of looking at her like, wow, what's that woman doing? So I think for us, definitely the preparation was really playful and lovely, and a really kind of special time, so that when we were there on the day, that kind of stress and panic didn't feel too stressful and panicky.
The highs and lows of working on Dancing as an Old Friend are the highs and lows of, I think, probably doing any kind of work during coronavirus time. The dancers were separated from each other and from me, which meant that time and money was not an issue. They worked when they could and sent me material when they could. The only people who were paid on this project were the composers of the wonderful music we used, because it was, like most of what I make, and more so during this time, a labor of love. The high points were actually watching these two young women that I'd known for 10 or more years, since they were 15 probably, know their minds and lead me in a lot of the imagery and the final statement that they wanted this to be, which was not about COVID really, but about friendship. Another high, I suppose, is that at least for a little while, there are going to be an awful lot of virtual festivals. And I sort of hate that it's a meta movie, because it probably most likely will continue to exist mostly virtually. But maybe there's a gift in that the expectations are in a small frame. So what were the lows? Wasn't fun to be together, to not be together, and to not be able to share it publicly. The lows are the highs. Hello, and you can quote me.
Okay, so the highs initially were for myself and our other producer, Karen Newman, was to have such a beautiful script to hand, which Nia wrote, I think, she had a vision 12 years ago and wrote it in a single spell, and put it in a drawer, and then she picked it up and gave it to us as an ensemble. It was incredibly relevant in the wake of Grimsby by Sacha Baron Cohen, the Me Too movement as well, and how we all feel from time to time as women that there is no equality still in 2020. It was an ensemble piece. It was a micro-budget film. We all pulled together. It was like, so see, I'm more of a northerner than Nia, because I'm from Norway and she's only from Grimsby. There is a connection there though, there's a Viking connection. But anyway, in Norway we have this word called dugnad, which is almost like war effort. And it felt a bit like that in a positive sense. So we all pulled together, we really wanted to make this work. And that was the positivity of it, everyone pulling together. Obviously, the challenge was that once you ask favors from people and they are happy to be involved, you still have to work around their normal schedules, because people have to earn money and feed their families. So that, I think, was the main challenge. And but yeah, we got there, didn't we? And yeah, very, very proud to be part of it. And thank you, Nia.
So the highs and lows of the project, hand-drawn animation is a labor of love, and the characters become your companion because they're with you non-stop, and you just keep plugging along. It's the nature of this film technique. And my children were the actors that I used in the rotoscope technique. So I would film them. A lot of this was filmed earlier than the pandemic. They would put a GoPro on their helmet before they got on in a horse riding lesson, and it just made everything go smooth, my drawing and their class. And the highs probably also were working on the sound. In an animation, in this particular one where there's no dialogue, every sound becomes part of the conversation, and the silence or the sound is very penetrating.
The highs and lows of working on Quiet on Set. So the high, well, one of the highs was getting a well-written and layered script to work on. And then the challenge was to tell this kind of complicated and layered story in an efficient way, in a short. The highs are also that I get to continue my creative and collaborative working relationship with Jeanette Buck, and not just with Jeanette, but you know, with the writer, with the composer. It was a whole team effort, so that was really fantastic. The lows are that we work in an industry where this story still needs to be told. And told in a lot of different ways, with a lot of different understandings of how it's resolved.
The highs of the film, of course, was getting to dig back into Angela's story before I knew her. She had a life before I knew her, a big life, and I had a life also before I knew her, which I was able to bring to her. And I was able to research and discover her before I knew her. And it helped me to understand her, a complicated woman with many gifts. So our relationship, I think, was enhanced also, and boy, did I listen to things differently. And it helped me in the editing, because sometimes I would have revelations about what should follow what and how and what should be used, and based on what was happening in our lives. The lows was that she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's before the film was finished, but she was able to see the film, and we went to the Art Theater for a premiere here in Long Beach. And I have wonderful photographs of her. We had a party and people came, and it was magnificent. I will also say one of the highs of it was that when she looked at the film, she was able to look at the film before the diagnosis, and she only had one thing that she wanted to say about it. That's the only thing she ever said. And you'll see it in the film. There's a series when she was on People Are Talking. It was a national television program. And I made a selection of what she said, and she said, "Oh no, that's too soft. Use the one that's more difficult." And she was totally right. So this story has to be told now. It needed to be told then. It will, and because racism is such a huge part of how the United States, and every country, but especially the United States, exists. That this is information for people, and the lows is that I witnessed some of the difficulties that she experienced because of the racism, the sexism, and the homophobia, and it pained me. But she had a lot of grace, and you'll see it in the film.
I used to be a line producer when I was in my 20s, and I did make some short films then, but I never had the confidence to make one of my own. So when the opportunity came about to shoot Pastry, it was fantastic for me. The only lows on it was that I wasn't there on the set or for the shoot, because it was being shot in London and I was in Wales, and I couldn't get there, and I missed out on all the cakes. So that wasn't fair, was it? But we had some great actresses in Deborah Sabina and the comedian Maureen Younger, which was a high for it. And also it's done well for itself. We managed to get it into the court metrage in Cannes, so me and Eduardo went to Cannes, and it's also had quite a long life on the festival circuit, which has been a high for me because it's getting, you know, more and more of an audience, which I think is fantastic.
Thank you very much, Alison, and indeed thank everybody. Thank you all for your amazing contribution today. It's just so great to see this sea of women's faces, and to know that, you know, this festival is really supporting and celebrating all of our work. So it's just really great. Just before we wrap up, I've got a few kind of announcements I need to make, but first of all, I just do really want to thank everybody who contributed today, because it's just been really fascinating to listen to how you made the films, why you made the films, and what inspired you. I want to remind you that all of these films are on the website, which is running from the 26th to the 30th of September. And just before we all leave today, I would really like to encourage you all to watch as many of the films as you can on the WOFF website, where you will also be able to find a link to be able to vote for your favorite film in the Emerald Life Audience Choice Award, and we would love you to do that. Thank you. Just again, thank you so much to everyone who's taken part today. And I'd like to invite you, please, to wave goodbye in classic Zoom fashion to all of our audience who are out there now and watching.
Thank you for coming.